From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. Board to reconvene. The first item is roll call.
Supervisor Gleason?
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener? Supervisor Maggard?
Here.
Supervisor Couch?
Here.
Supervisor Perez?
Here.
Next item is the salute to the flag. Supervisor Perez, would you lead us in the flag salute this morning? I'm sorry I didn't ask you before now.
I would love to.
I hate to
Thank
spring
you.
this one on you, but I think you know it.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Please stand.
At the conclusion of this, would you please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer. Thank you.
Salute. Pledge.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item is the pet of the week. So I'm going to invite Nick Cullen, who's our Director of Animal Services, to come out and tell us about Katie. I have a very important question for you when you're done with all this. Look at this little.
Good morning. Nick Cullen, Director of Kern County Animal Services. This morning's Board of the Supervisors Pet of the Week is Katie, spelled K-E-T-T-E, Katie. Katie's about a year-old terrier mix. She's available for adoption right now. She's only about 9 pounds. She's not going to get much bigger than that. She's super affected by the lights and all the activity. She's a very smart dog, though. She's a very smart dog. She's going to make somebody a really good family pet. She's available for adoption right now at the Kern County Animal Shelter, and her adoption fee is just $85.
How did we do last week?
We had Lee was our pet of the week last week, and he's been adopted.
So all of them have been adopted out.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm sure Katie will go fast. I had one question from a member of the public. And we're going to find out how much courage you've actually got and how comfortable you are in your position. They want to know when we're going to be adopting out a dog named either Mick, Mike, Ryan. They're curious about that, where you're getting these names. But they've noticed that we don't have one named Letitia either.
That's correct.
I can safely say.
Or Matt.
I can safely say that the next Board of the Supervisors Pet of the Week will be one of those names.
Oh, fantastic. I like it.
I want to know.
Thank you.
I want to know when you're going to hold a Labrador.
If we get a bigger one, we're going to go down in front and
okay.
I'll be holding a leash.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
That hurt.
All right, thank you, guys. The next item is a report on actions taken in closed session from our October 15th meeting. County Council.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. At the conclusion of last week's PM session, you met in closed session on item 31. However, there is no reportable action.
Thank you. Next item is a consent agenda. All items listed with a C, A, or a C above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. We can act on those all in one motion. Let me tell you what the consent agenda consists of. We have 26 items on the entire agenda today. 5 items, items 2, 4, 5, 18, and 19, are not on the consent agenda. Everything else is on the consent agenda, and again, we can act on those all in one motion. Is there anyone here that would like to either make a comment about any of those items that I did not just tell you that were off the agenda, or ask for separate consideration on any of those? Seeing none, I'll return it to the board and ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you. That takes us back to page 2, under the resolutions and proclamations portion of the meeting. Item 2 proclaims October 23, 2019 as National Bioenergy Day in Kern County, and this proclamation will be presented by Supervisor Gleason.
Motion on proclamation.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scrivener.
Come on up. Okay. It's an honor to be here. One of the things Kern County is best known for, other than its charitable citizens, is our energy profile. We've done a phenomenal job in supporting the state of California and the country in terms of energy development. This morning is no different. The bioenergy that we contribute to and that we develop is a significant part of our portfolio, and the people behind me here are eager to let us know exactly what they're doing, why they're doing, and why they're so special, which they are. I've been up there to look at it in Famoso. It's a formidable place that does a great job reducing pollutants. It contributes to the local economy and improves the environment by preventing open burning of agricultural residuals and urban green biomass from going to the landfills. They do a phenomenal job up there, and it's a pleasure for me to offer this proclamation on behalf of our chairman, saying the Board of Supervisors of Kern County proclaim October 23rd, 2019 as National Bioenergy Day in Kern County. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys. On behalf of DT Energy Services, Mount Poso Energy Corporation, and Mount Poso Cogeneration Plant, thank you for proclaiming October 23rd, National Biomass Energy Day. Independence High School tomorrow at 11 a.m. If you guys have something open, come on out and join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir, can I have your name for the record?
James Andrews.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We gotta get a picture. Do we get pictures? Go. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Did you see
Nice to see all of you. Thank you all for coming today. Next item is item 4, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on the agenda but under the jurisdiction of the board. Is there anyone here that would like to make a public presentation? I don't see any. Seeing none, we'll move on to board member announcements and reports. I have one. Are there any others? Don't see any. I need to state this for the record, that the Board of Supervisors will be holding a special meeting next Tuesday, October 29th, beginning at 9 a.m., to hear and discuss the operational and funding plan for the board's previously authorized Emergency Low Barrier Navigation Center on county-owned property between M and O Streets off of Golden State Highway. Thank you. That takes care of item 5. Moves us on to item 11 under County Council. This is a report on the California Public Utilities Commission emergency meeting regarding the Public Safety Power Shutoff Program and a request to join a joint local government group participating in the rulemaking process by the CPUC. County Council.
Good morning again. My presentation to you this morning consists of 2 parts. As we shared with you last week, there's some information about the public safety power shutoff, the PSPS, that Kern County experienced during starting on October 9th. Following that, the California Public Utility Commission had an emergency meeting to discuss that, Mr. Kalsa from my office attended that in San Francisco on Friday, and he will be making a brief presentation to you about his experience at that emergency meeting, and then I will follow that with just a little information and a request that I'd like to make, having the county join a group of other local governments in actively participating in what's called the rulemaking process related to future PSPS and the protocols. So with that, I'll have Mr. Kalsa address your board.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, members of the board. How are you today? I had the privilege of attending the public session in San Francisco on Friday at the CPUC emergency meeting. I think that my primary takeaway is that the CPUC shares your anger and upset with PG&E with respect to the PSPS that happened in October. The board began by passing a motion to declare an emergency under the government code based upon PG&E's actions. And they declared that really that the activities of PG&E had resulted in a catastrophic event, and that because these fires are going to be ongoing, that PG&E had engaged in conduct that really could not be repeated. There were basically 2 hours of presentation by PG&E in which they tried to take some responsibility, but from my perspective, there was a lot of excuse giving with respect to how they conducted their affairs. They did admit that their website crashed twice. Their call center was non-responsive to the public when they tried to get information about the shutoffs, that their maps were inaccurate, and in many instances didn't reflect the accurate or the actual areas where the shutoff was happening. The maps were not accessible with respect to address, so that you couldn't plug in your address and find out if your home was going to be affected by the shutoff. The PG&E explanation with respect to medically sensitive communities really wasn't at all well received by the CPUC, and the CPUC members were very focused on having PG&E improve the quality and the structure and the implementation of all of the aspects with respect to medically sensitive populations. PG&E also admitted that their coordination with local government was not up to standard, and they made a number of commitments to improve that execution. I was able to, I don't know if Mr. Turnipseed is here, but I actually had 3 minutes at the board. So I was grateful for that, and had an opportunity to express.
For the record, Mr. Turnipseed is applauding you.
Oh, good. I had 3 minutes to express your board's concerns and the emergency operations system's concerns about the failures of PG&E. What I wanted to present to the board today in conclusion, really, and then pass the baton to County Council, is that PG&E has made a number of commitments, and they filed a corrective action report, which is 16 pages long with the PUC, which we're going to go through, and I'm going to review with Georgiana Armstrong. And I think it's really incumbent upon Kern County to review that corrective action plan and provide direct feedback, not only to PG&E, but to the PUC, who is very focused on having PG&E comply with this corrective action plan. I can't underscore enough that wanted to find some quotes here, but they referenced PG&E as being incompetent. They were shocked at the degree and lack of IT infrastructure that they had, and really, in most instances, called PG&E on the carpet in a very, I thought, appropriate manner, given the nature of the event. So again, in conclusion, we were able to present our concerns to PG&E and to the PUC. There was substantial public comment in probably the last hour of the meeting, which lasted 4+ hours in San Francisco, where a number of disabled people spoke, a number of folks who were concerned about the rate structure spoke, and there really was no commitment on behalf of PG&E to provide any type of rebate or reimbursement for folks who had been adversely impacted by this event. I think those are all the critical pieces that I wanted to articulate to this board. I think it's an opportunity for Kern County to participate in not only the rulemaking process for Phase 2 of the wildfire mitigation structure, which is being put forth by the CPUC, but also to provide direct feedback to the CPUC, along with other counties, about the ongoing performance of PG&E, because I think it's not only important to provide that feedback, but it's really going to result in taking people out of harm's way if this event occurs in the future, and it's likely to do so. So that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kalsa. Let me open it up to the public before we return it to the board and ask if there's anyone here that would like to make a comment on this item. If there are others, could we get you to come to the front row so we can get you to the microphone quickly? Good morning, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I'm
I
sorry.
also wanted to address my request to join in the rulemaking process.
Okay.
And there are kind of, they're one
Sorry about that.
recommendation.
Didn't mean to preempt you.
That's all right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. By way of just a little bit of background, Senate Bill 901 was adopted in September 2018 and followed a decade of devastating wildfires. And this was a decade that saw the beginning of public utility companies exploring the de-energization of the electric power lines. We call it the PSPS, or the Public Safety Power Shutoff. In connection with Senate Bill 901, the California investor-owned utilities were ordered to create wildfire mitigation plans and submit those plans to the Public Utility Commission. The plans are to contain protocols for de-energizing portions of the electrical system and procedures for notifying customers that may be impacted by those de-energizations. The CPUC also imposed notification, mitigation, and reporting requirements for these PSPS events on all the utilities. In connection with that, the CPUC opened a rulemaking process to focus on the de-energization, and they split it into two phases. The first phase opened in December of 2018 and issued a decision in June of 2019. The second phase opened on October 14th of 2019, and the phase 2 will also be split into two separate tracks. The purpose of phase 2 is to refine the definitions and terminology, examine how to improve outreach and notification, examine the utilities' criteria and decision-making for shutting the power off, refine communication and notification protocols, examine the coordination necessary for de-energizing transmission lines and what criteria the CPUC should use to evaluate impacts of de-energizing transmission lines, and examine lessons learned from PSPS events since Phase 1 decision was adopted. Track 2 will just continue to take a deeper look into the issues related to notification, communication, mitigation, whether the utilities are taking proactive measures to reduce the need for future PSPSs, and matters along those lines. I understand that the CPUC adopted virtually all of the recommendations that were submitted by a group of counties. At the time, I believe there were only 3 of them that formed a local government group. That local government group has now grown to at least 6 counties and 1 city. It seems that every time I talk to somebody there, as a county, they're also considered joining this kind of loose coalition. But it is a group of counties, and as I said, the city of Santa Rosa, that have banded together to submit comments and recommendations directly to the CPUC related to the rulemaking process. I'm told that the extent to which the CPUC adopted the joint local government's recommendations is unusual. The CPUC afforded a high level of credibility to the recommendations and comments that were submitted by the joint local government group in connection with Phase 1. While there's still room for improvement, no doubt, as we witnessed firsthand with PG&E's implementation of a PSPS, the open dialogue, I believe that joining in this group would be an asset to the county, and it would allow us to have an active voice at the table. Therefore, I'm requesting that your board direct me to take the steps necessary to join the local government group so that we can be assured of active participation in the rulemaking process related to PSPS events. That concludes my report and request.
Thank you. Now we'll open it up to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Turnipseed, representing the Kern County Taxpayers Association. You definitely need to participate in the rulemaking process, but this is part of the problem with the Public Utilities Commission. They are having meetings, taking comments, and they haven't even made the rules yet. They're still in the rulemaking process for these power shutdowns. So you trying, like any government agency, you're trying to respond to moving targets set by the PUC because they haven't set the rules yet. And that doesn't explain or make up for anything that happened, but please understand that This is a fast-moving game, and the rules that were in place 2 months ago are not going to be the same 2 months from now. And that's just the way the PUC, they always respond. They are never proactive in establishing good, solid programs. They throw something on the wall, and then when things go wrong, they're the first ones to complain and bitch and point fingers. But actually, they're the ones who are responsible to oversee the public utilities. And it's not just PG&E. Edison has some issues too. And the problem in California today is you don't hear anything about any of the other utilities except those overseen by the Public Utilities Commission. And this rulemaking on the shutdowns is only a small piece of what's going on and how we're going to be affected by what's happened in the past. The bankruptcy. Just yesterday, the city of San Jose gave a proposal to the bankruptcy court about putting together a group of cities to take over the entire service area of PG&E. Well, I don't know if I want the Bay Area, which they would run anyway. I don't know if that's worse for us or not. I think it's going to be worse for us if the cities in the Bay Area who have the money and the population to control the boards and everything are going to be doing what's already the PUC is doing. And the bankruptcy, and there's a hedge fund, you know, I mentioned last week. When you have hedge funds there, they are only interested in making money. And we have talked to PG&E, and we have suggested, Jeff Frederick and I spent an hour with him talking last night about this, and he offers his service to advise you if you need any help or input, because he's been in this business for over 35 years, and he knows it. This is not going to end up in our benefit. And we talked about the idea, you deal with Cal Water too. You notice Cal Water is a major public service provider under the PUC, but each area has their own rates, their own rules, and their own charges. So you're in the Bakersfield market, you pay your costs. You're not paying the costs of anybody else's. And we're suggesting, and it's pretty much on deaf ears, that PG&E needs to be broken up. They're too big, it's too complex, too many different climate zones, and to come up with equitable rates that we've seen for the last 20 years, the Valley has suffered under the present system because we just happen to use more energy and have an air conditioning tax because we like to be in air-conditioned homes. You must keep focused on not just the rate-making case on the public shutdowns, but the general rate case in particular. That's the big ball game. And the bankruptcy is even a bigger ball game. And if the counties want to really have some influence, they better figure out how to get into the bankruptcy court, especially now that San Jose and the hedge funds are in bankruptcy court trying to take over PG&E. And the counties have the power. You say the counties are being listened to? Well, they better start elbowing their way into the bankruptcy court and giving some opinions that are going to protect the Valley. And Kern County is not alone. Go all the way to the Oregon border. All the Valley counties, non-Bay Area counties are in the same boat. This is a big deal. What we're talking about here is important, but it's a tiny little piece of the pie. You've got to keep your eye on the prize in the game, and that is somehow figuring out how to get in that bankruptcy court to make sure the interests of the Valley are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? Seeing none, I return it to the board for questions or comments. I have one, if no one is interested in punching in. Supervisor Maggard, you go first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colsall, could you please tell us a little bit more about the medically sensitive population and what's going to be done to help them? Apparently, there's a chance that power is going to go off today or tomorrow for other customers of the utility. So what specifically was said about the medically sensitive population?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, what was said about the medically sensitive population is that PG&E really doesn't have a plan that's working for the medically sensitive population. They told some stories about having people stop by and check on folks when their power went out. But at the end of the day, what both the PUC and others in the audience who commented at the end threw the covers off was that they really don't have a good methodology to identify the people, because many folks aren't participating in the medical baseline identification process. And so they have to go back to the drawing board, as it were, and figure out the best way. And one of those ways really is to communicate more directly with individual counties and partner with the emergency folks in those counties to identify where medically sensitive people may be located, and work with the local entity to go out and identify people who are not able to be reached by telephone or email or text. So from my perspective, this is an unsolved problem that still puts people at risk. So that was my takeaway from the meeting. And the PUC was very focused. And as I said, a number of disabled individuals, folks who were blind, deaf, in wheelchairs and so forth, spoke to this issue very passionately from the standpoint that in many instances, they're in apartments where the landlord pays the electric bill. So they're not even getting notification of the shutoff per se, because they're not on the bill. So this is still a critical issue that really needs resolution and needs partnering between individual counties and PG&E, which they committed to. But again, I think it's a wait and see if they actually take those steps.
Thank you. I definitely support our joining the coalition of local governments that's going to have a voice there. That's one venue in which we can have some influence. It concerns me about this issue about the medically sensitive population, because it sounds to me like there's no plan in place that's any different than it was before they shut it off the first time. Yeah. So all of our medically sensitive population here locally are going to be just as vulnerable or more than they were the first time. So that's an area I'd like us to be looking at. There is I remember from long ago, there's an opportunity for certain medically sensitive people to sign up for a program that allows you to discount your bill because you draw so much power. You have to have your air conditioner down because you have a different body temperature you have to maintain and whatnot. So bottom line is, I don't know what the mechanism is to be a part of that group that gets notified or gets checked on, but I think that's worth our looking into, to see if there's something we could do to make sure all of our population here is aware of how to go about doing that. About how much public comment did you see? How many people spoke?
I want to say the meeting ran well past 5:30. I stayed until that time. There were there were three speakers from representing counties. Sonoma County was represented, myself was representing Kern County, and then I stayed for 6 or 7 public speakers. And as I watched the video yesterday, there were probably another, I think 20 to 22 people spoke in total at that meeting.
We have more than that here. on a hot marijuana day.
That's correct. I think both the board and the meeting started at 1 p.m. So I think the board at the end just kind of the chairman looked 2 ways, said, does anybody have any comments? I hope not. And then they concluded the meeting. So I think it was the length of the meeting. It appeared that anybody who stayed, who wanted to speak, had an opportunity to speak. Everybody had 3 minutes. And I think the public comment that I listened to was very focused, very impassioned on the medical sensitive issue, on the issue of rates and reimbursement. And I just add this sidelight that because of the nature of the power structure, how the power is kind of disseminated, there aren't little small sections you can shut off. And in Humboldt County, they had to shut down a large section of the power that really didn't need to be shut down because one of their lines was out of service and they didn't have a way to kind of parse the area to just focus the shutdown. So those folks lost power and they didn't need to. And so the question arose, are you going to give those folks a rebate? And the CEO said, first he said no. And then he walked it back and said, well, we haven't really considered that yet. So again, these are some of the things that were uncovered through public comment and through the discourse.
Was there any discussion of the financial responsibility being borne by shareholders as opposed to ratepayers?
That was a number of speakers spoke to that. The several members of the PUC focused on that. They were upset that a very expensive dinner was held on the anniversary of the campfire. I wanted to know who paid for that.
That fellow's no longer working for PG&E, I believe, right? I think I read the paper a few days later he was terminated.
Right. So that they were honed in on those funding issues. Again, unresolved at this point as to whether or not ratepayers are going to get a rebate, whether or not there's going to be a contingency fund set aside for people who suffered damage from these shutoffs. These are all things to be decided.
Did we turn in any written comments in addition to what you spoke of?
I believe we did. I'm sorry. It was my understanding that we were going to turn in.
I'm just make sure that we do in the future. I think that would be helpful.
I'm not
Yes.
certain. I know that Thomas Brown was assembling some information, working with the fire department. CSAC had requested information, and so I believe he is assembling that information to provide directly to CSAC, to provide to the CPUC.
About 20 years ago, when I was a city councilman, the disaggregation of ratepayers, the energy market was significantly changing, and I approached the city manager about whether or not the city of Bakersfield should become its own utility. And I was counseled by him that the cost of buying the utility lines, maintaining them, there were significant costs would be incurred, and that didn't go anywhere. But I think it's worth looking at that option again for us, just what all of our options are, because, and I want to dovetail this into Mr. Turnipseed's comments about bankruptcy. By the way, Mr. Turnipseed, I appreciate your counsel and your comments, and I also appreciate Jess Frederick being interested. And I think we should avail ourselves of Mr. Frederick's expertise to see if it might be something we could benefit from. I'm certain that it is. But bankruptcy court, I don't know what experience the county has in bankruptcy court, but it is a wild and woolly place where deals are made and judges make decisions, and we could have a significant influence, or this coalition of local governments could have a significant influence in bankruptcy court. Sometimes, decisions are made kind of on the fly as they go along. So I think that's a very good idea that a very good suggestion that we explore what influence we might have in the bankruptcy court, because there are sharks in that room that will do whatever suits their purposes and not the public's. So I've seen that before with the results of bankruptcy court over the years. So I hope that's something that my colleagues will be interested in pursuing as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Calza, Mr. Razan, for your report. And Mike, thanks for your input.
Thank you. Supervisor Gleason.
Thanks, Chairman. I agree, Mike, with much of what you said. I could go on for hours about this, but I won't. I have some questions, though, GK, for you. So you drove 5 hours up there, 5 hours back, and spoke for 3 minutes?
I actually took the train, Supervisor.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for doing that. I appreciate you taking a whole day to go up there and speak 3 minutes and come back here with some information for us. That's invaluable. And now I guess you're our PSPS guy.
I'll add that to my resume. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I just think I found it really interesting, CPUC's reaction and response and utter disgust and dismay at PG&E, what they did. I think from where I'm sitting, they were there at the beginning. They helped shape, maybe they didn't write the rules, but they helped shape the environment we're in. And now they are throwing rocks everywhere they can. They're eagerly joining local governments because they're running for cover. And they know this thing is a bomb ready to go off. And they want to find some safe haven, is my understanding of it, my impression. However, that doesn't do us any good. What's going to do us good is focusing on the future, focusing on how do we get out of this mess, how do we take care of our constituents, and how do we influence decision makers to best support what we need to do and how we need to do it and how quickly we need to get engaged, and where those touch points are and who we do that and how we massage those types of decisions. And I do know that in the world of influence, presence is critical. You have to be at the table in order to eat the food. And so we need to have some active involvement in CPUC, and I don't know how that shapes itself, but we need to start doing that. I appreciate Mr. Turnipseed's comments about bankruptcy court. I know nothing about that. but I'm eager to learn, and what he said certainly sounds interesting. Do we have an understanding of the PSPS history at all? Do we know where its origins? It's like 15 years or something. Could you, Madam Council, go over that a little bit? Tell us what this PSPS program is. I mean, it just didn't start after the campfire. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. It's just after the campfire that the liabilities got so great that they had to actually act. Go ahead.
I haven't done a tremendous amount of research into that, but I do know that following some devastating wildfires in the San Diego kind of area, which was in 2007, San Diego Gas and Electric Company asked the CPUC for authority to proactively de-energize power lines during high fire threat times. And then in July of 2018, following the wildfires of 2017, the CPUC extended the authority to de-energize power lines to all investor-owned utilities. And then that's what started kind of this statewide PSPS program. So it looks like for about 10 years, it was only San Diego Gas and Electric that had the authority to do that. And then now they all do.
So the PSPS program is going to be with us for a while. I read pamphlets, and they're projecting the near future, 10 to 15 years. It's here until they fix their problem. GK, do they talk about what the fix is?
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, PG&E did talk about a number of fixes that they're working on, and their president and CEO, Bill Johnson, projected it would take 10 years for them to resolve this problem.
What were those fixes?
Fixes were more aggressive vegetation abatement, the hardening of the lines through coverings. So there's technology that allows you to cover the wires so that there's less opportunity for vegetation to brush up against them and cause wildfires. Let me just look at my notes for a minute. The division of the power lines into smaller units so that smaller areas could be shut off, not large areas. That's something where they have to have power generation in place. So there showed some maps where in many areas of California, the grid is gigantic and there's not really a sectionalization of the grid, so they have to shut down the whole grid. Those were the things that I recall that they are doing. They have a number of weather monitoring stations. There are over 600 weather monitoring stations that they look at throughout their very large geographic region that they control. They have a dedicated vice president who's in charge of wildfire mitigation. His name is Sumit Singh. And so they have a number of technologies that they're looking at. They're looking at fixed wing night vision with HD to go and inspect their lines so that they don't have to just work in daylight hours. So they're trying to maximize the use of technology to really deal with kind of a low-tech environment of trees and wires. But again, the CPUC pointed out, this is not new. Trees and grass stuff have been growing forever. And so it was kind of, they were confused as to why it's taken PG&E to recognize so long that aggressive vegetation maintenance is a key aspect of fire mitigation. So these are the things that I recall that they are taking steps to do. It is a large area, and they are prioritizing those areas based upon the likelihood of wildfires.
Did you get a lineup of the people in the CPUC? I mean, you know who's on, how many people, like 7 or 8 people on that thing?
There are 5 people, and
Are any of them from Central California, Central Valley?
I haven't gotten where they are from. There are 4 women, 1 man, 1 male, and
I did hear one of the women refer to, she said something in passing like growing up in the San Joaquin Valley or being from the San Joaquin Valley. I'm not certain, but she referenced the San Joaquin Valley.
So is GK, I got a bunch of questions, but I can take those personal with you offline.
Sure.
But are you our point person on this issue? Is that what we're doing here?
I think so.
Who is our point person? Is GK our point person?
Either GK or myself, we've been working together.
Fair enough. I just want to have a place where we can go and understand how we're going to collect information, how we're going to get informed, how we're going to influence this place and make decisions, and then how best do we immediately support our constituents? What are the, we got these things coming on down from on high for CPUC. Well, what are we coming from the bottom up to protect our citizens so that this has minimum impact on a quality of life? I do know that several years ago I fought with Cal Water about water rates in the Kern River Valley. So I know what Mr. Turnipseed said about different rates, different schedules, different geographical areas. That's very true. And I got the distinct impression after a very vigorous town hall meeting where we had CPUC representation there that they weren't going to do a darn thing. And it was just too bad. The rates are coming. There's nothing we can do. And they have evidence on their side. But sometimes I wonder how successful we're going to be influencing CPUC, so I look for other ways to represent and stick up for my constituents. So we've taken the first step. GK, you spent the day going up to San Francisco. Thank you very much. We need to know more about this. We need some type of regular scheduled plan of attack on how Kern County is going to best influence decision makers and represent our constituents, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor. I want to follow up on what Supervisor Gleason just said. I agree with what Mr. Turnipseed said, that this is an understatement, a very important issue. I'm interested, do you have already maybe an internal task force on this that Mr. Alsop, that you've assigned people to, or the county council has assigned people to that, for example, we know you've got some people on homelessness. We basically know who that is. Maybe it's a little early in the process for that yet, but.
If I could address that, just in the last week and a half or so, my office and I have been coordinating with Ryan and Georgiana Armstrong, Chief Witt, and Thomas Brown are the people that we've been in communication with, and we can put something more formal together and divvy up tasks and follow up.
And Supervisor Gleason asked about, I believe you just asked about how we would hear more about this, regular reports on this, keeping it sort of top of mind for us. I agree with that. Are there any of those discussions or reports that we would have to have in closed session? And we're talking about going to bankruptcy court.
Well, if the county were to be considering initiating litigation, that is an appropriate closed session item. But other than that, nothing immediately comes to mind. But
So if we're going to bankruptcy court, we don't get to discuss our strategy?
yeah, if the county was interested in initiating litigation, then that is an appropriate closed session.
But if we're just a interested party at the court?
No, litigation, topics of litigation are appropriate for closed session.
Supervisor Megre, you want to get back in?
Thank you.
Please
I just wanted to make the motion to receive and file the report, thank them for bringing forward the information, direct staff to join this local government group and to explore what opportunities exist in bankruptcy court, as well as with Mr. Frederick, to see if he might be able to give us any input.
Sounds like a good motion. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Colson. That takes us to item 16 under the Fire Department. This is a public hearing to consider a proposed resolution to revise and set fees for services provided and permits issued by the Kern County Fire Department. Morning, Chief.
Good morning, Chairman Couch and members of the board. I'm here today with our Fire Marshal, Derek Tysinger, and our consultant that did the fee study, Terry Madsen. The items before you is the final step in the proposed resolution to revise and set fees for services provided and permits issued by the Kern County Fire Department. The Kern County Fire Department is proposing to revise current fees and establish new fees for specific and unique services provided by this department. The fee schedule was established in 2006, and fees have not been increased since 2016. The fees will cover mandated inspections along with services provided to businesses and individuals related to land use and development, special permits, and construction projects. It is the department's intention to bring our fees to the current cost of service that we provide. A series of public meetings were held throughout the county to receive comment of the proposed fee. There was no opposition to the proposed fee schedule. Today, the fire department is requesting that your board open the hearing to consider the proposed resolution to revise the set fees for services provided and permits issued, receive public comment, close the hearing, and make a final finding that the project is exempt from further CEQA review, approve the fee schedule, and adopt the resolution. We're available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Chief. Let me open it up to the public and ask if there's anyone here that would like to comment on this item. Seeing none, I'll return it to the board for questions, comments, and action. I should say that I'll close the public hearing and then return it to the board.
Motion to adopt the findings and to approve the fee schedule and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you. The next item is item 18. It is a public hearing to consider the proposed ordinances amending section 8.04.150 of the Kern County Ordinance Code relating to unpermitted food vending and a repeal of the uncodified ordinance G-8823 and adopting a new uncodified ordinance related to service and permit fees for environmental health, establishing a progressive penalty fee for providing a service without first having obtained a valid health permit. Did not realize it was going to be that long when I got started on that.
Thank
Mr.
you, Mr.
Constantine,
Chairman.
good morning.
Good morning. This item before you is to consider changes to the county ordinance to address the significant food safety risk from the sale of food from unpermitted food vendors. As we previously discussed on September 24th, there are a number of mobile food vendors that operate throughout the county without first obtaining a health permit, and more importantly, operate in an unsafe and unsanitary manner. And that presents a risk to public health. The department works diligently in response to this issue, providing education and at times enforcement after hours and on weekends. However, we are challenged with bringing about sustainable change, and we remain concerned that the risk for disease transmission remains high. Currently, our process is to work with any unpermitted food vendor with the ultimate goal of assisting them with coming into compliance and ensuring the protection of food. We have established a set date and time each week that we have staff available to meet with mobile vendors. If our educational outreach is unsuccessful, though, state law allows for the health inspectors to issue a notice of violation and to require the vendor to discontinue sales. Depending on the imminent food safety risk, the inspector may also recommend the disposal of any food that has been handled and stored in an unsafe manner. If after several unsuccessful attempts to remediate the food safety risk, we will actually issue a citation for operating without a health permit, which is a misdemeanor under state law. Surprisingly at times, though, these actions still fail to bring about change. And due to these ongoing challenges, the grand jury in 2 consecutive reports, one in 2018 and one most recently in June of 2019, recommended the creation of an ordinance that would allow for the temporary impoundment of equipment with administrative financial penalties for food vendors found operating without a valid health permit. This proposed ordinance in front of you today will allow for the impoundment of the cart and cooking equipment that is used in the unpermitted sale of food after previous documented attempts have failed. The equipment can be reclaimed by the owner after fees for the cost of the impoundment are paid. And then finally, in the audience today again are Alex Ruiz with La Mina and Norma Diaz with the local La Rosa carts, both of which have been very instrumental in the creation of this ordinance before you. And as longtime business owners in the county, both of them understand the inherent food safety risk presented by this activity, but also they express concerns about the unfair business advantage that this provides. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We'll open the hearing up and ask if there's members of the public or anyone here that would like to speak to this item. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Thank you, Chairman, giving an opportunity to speak here. I'm a legal vendor selling ice cream where I have to obtain a permit from Park and Recreation. In order to sell $2 ice cream, I have to have a $1 million policy, which I have, in the parks. And here I go, I'm selling all that stuff, and then I see all these illegal vendors around me, with no permits. And I call everybody, code enforcement, nobody can do anything, and nobody's enforcing anything. And here, they're giving permits, where we have to carry a $1 million policy, just to go sell $2 ice cream. I just like to address, so please do something on this situation,
I think you're speaking in favor of the staff's recommendation?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. I'm sorry, sir. Could you give us your name for the record?
Vikram Mani. Yeah, Vikram, Vikram.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other people who would like to speak to this item? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ricardo, and though I would ask Mr. Constantine to go back to the drawing board on this proposed item, I'm in favor of the ordinance, but I think it's a slap in the face in terms of the punishment that are being proposed. I believe I heard somewhere in the media that it's $250 for the first fine citation, $500 second time, third time's like $1,000. I think that's what you mentioned as a progressive penalty. But $250 is a slap in the face. It's a joke. To begin with, I think the county needs to create a fee that is a penalty that it's high enough that even the person that's thinking about going into these kind of vending situations where they're going to operate without a health permit, that they wouldn't even think about doing it. And that's where I think I would agree with somewhere he mentioned La Mina and La Rosa being here, that it creates unfair practices for those brick and mortar establishments here in the county that have to adhere to very stringent policies and ordinances being set up by the state and by the county. So this idea about being fair, I think it's true, but it can only be true if the penalty is high enough, and that's my concern. This is to put aside the idea about the health impact that these people can provide on the side too. So we have to look at it from both perspectives: the health issue that it causes to be functioning unregulated, and at the same time the unfair practices that it creates for other businesses too as well. So I think that it's a step in the right direction, but I think the fees need to be stiffer, and so that's where I think both the health department and the board needs to work together to come up with a better proposition. And I know that you guys might be functioning under a very strange policies coming from Sacramento with Jerry Brown signing Senate Bill 946, saying that this will now be a misdemeanor instead of a crime, right? So that's my 2 cents on this. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Any other speakers? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and, I'm sorry.
I thought I got up on time.
Oh,
I thought I was pretty quick.
you just couldn't stand it.
I just turned 50, so my knees are going out a little bit, but I thought I got it pretty good.
The best part of the meeting, the last time you spoke, was when your brother got up and tried to pull you off. I thought that was fun to see the family dynamics there.
I had like 3 brothers here that day, and that one's he's a joker, yeah. But we compete on that, so. Again, my name is Alex Ruiz. I'm here today representing the Kern County Mexican Restaurant Association. I would like to start by saying again, don't know what I'm doing here. I thought this was a no-brainer. I thought this was something that I would never have to be here speaking about. unpermitted vendors. There's about, we got about 20 members in our organization, which own a total of about 30 restaurants, and we're all we've had a meeting prior, and as a matter of fact, we had a meeting at the health department, and they sent me to represent them, and just to let you guys know, it's just we do believe it's unfair practice. We believe that the brick and mortars will be showing a decay in numbers because of the unpermitted vendors, and lots of people are talking about maybe just going unpermitted instead of going with permits, because it seems like the unpermitted vendors have a better chance to make more money, being that they don't have to abide by all the laws. And so I'll make it brief this time. I got a lot of criticism from my brother, says I rambled on a little bit too long. So I'll make it brief this time. Again, I'll remind you, I had my friend that had a $1 million house in Sylmar, had a neighbor that's doing tacos, just talked to him about a week ago, and he says another guy pulled up just about three houses down. Now he's surrounded by another taco vendor. So I don't want to see that happen to us here. Like I say, I'm sure you guys have nice houses. I feel like I got a pretty nice house, and I just don't want to come out and smelling carne asada every morning. I'd rather smell that when I get to work. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, rest of the board. I know I spoke last time. We've been anxiously awaiting this day for a vote, and I'm sure you totally understand that the real purpose of this is public health and public safety, and I know all the inspectors have been doing a great job. The biggest thing is the vote and then the implementation of it. We want to be helpful with them and help them in every way to do this. It's really important to me. We're coming into our 40th year, and Bakersfield has been a wonderful town to help us grow, and the other businesses too. So we're really asking that you'll pass this ordinance, and we can all work together and see what we can do for our city and county. Thank you.
Okay, and we know you, but could you give us your name, just for the record? Norma?
Norma Diaz.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll return it to the board. I don't see any lights on, but I'll just make the comment that I'm hopeful that we move forward on this today, but I think the one speaker, I'm sorry, your name again, sir? Ricardo. I share his concern that maybe that's not enough of a deterrent. So what would be the process if you find that it's not, and you would just bring back an amendment to this ordinance? And at what point does someone say that penalty is excessive for the crime?
So, Mr. Chairman, we share your comments and Ricardo's comments. In fact, our initial presentation to council had higher amounts. With their advice, we agreed to reduce it to the 250, 500, and 1,000. I think it's more consistent under other state law. I'm sure county council can address that. But our hope is that by the impoundment and the progressive fine, that we will see change regardless.
How much time needs to pass between your first violation and your second violation, if any?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there is no time between those. If we see the same vendor back the same day or the next day, we will continue the enforcement.
Okay. Supervisor Maggard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Constantine, and thank you to the public for your input on this. I'm grateful for that. I do want to be as strong as we can be, but I don't want to be so strong that we lose our teeth, that our penalties are overturned. That's happened to us before when we've become too aggressive. So where that balance point is, I'll leave it to you guys to figure out where that is. I thought that there was discussion about confiscating equipment. Can you walk us through, for the public's benefit? There's not been any discussion of that this morning, but if there's a serial offender, what's the consequence to the equipment they use to do it?
So, Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, that's correct. If our progressive enforcement has failed to bring about change, the ordinance, this proposed ordinance would allow us to impound the equipment and cart used in the sale of food. That equipment that would then be held could be returned if certain conditions are met. Most importantly, the fees are paid and a health permit is acquired. If the individual does not reclaim that equipment, it would then be destroyed subsequently.
Very good, thank you. And I'd like to have a conversation with you about a similar concern about those selling flowers and other various things on our streets, but flowers particularly with the hazards that they present. Okay, thank you for that. In light of the report and the concern of the public and our interest to protect them, I would be happy to make a motion to make the finding that this is not subject to CEQA. If determined to be a project exempt from further CEQA review, there's some sections that the record will reflect that will utilize and approve and enact the ordinances. Thank you very much to the public.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you. I believe that takes us to the end of the morning agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, item 19. I believe I'm wrong about that. That takes us to item 19, which is an appeal, and I'm not going to say this right, by Guying New to contest the decision of the hearing officer for Kern County Public Health Services Department to uphold the revocation of the massage establishment permit of Paradise Spa located at 919 North Chester Avenue, Bakersfield, California. I think we need to go to staff first for a report. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Bryn Kerrigan. I'm your Assistant Director of Kern County Public Health. The item before your board this morning is a request to appeal the revocation of a massage establishment permit for Paradise Spa as requested by Ms. Guying New. Before we go any further, I have a document that we've obtained this morning that's additional information that is applicable to this case. So, Ms. Clerk, if you don't mind passing this out. This is a report from the Sheriff's Office from the decoy. Thank you. Yeah, one page. Some background for your decision. If you'll recall, on August 22nd, 2017, your board adopted an ordinance requiring all massage establishments to obtain an annual operating permit in an attempt to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the public and those in the massage industry by ensuring massage establishments and practitioners have received the proper education and are following state and local regulations related to proper sanitation and conduct. Adoption of this ordinance was in response to the March 7th, 2017 report received from a local resident and business owner alleging that prostitution and potentially human trafficking was occurring in our local massage establishments. The decision to revoke the massage establishment permit for Paradise Spa was based on violations of the Kern County Ordinance Code found during an undercover decoy operation conducted with the Kern County Sheriff's Office within Paradise Spa on September 10th, 2019. During the operation, an employee of Paradise Spa, Ms. Xiaoping Tang, was cited by the Kern County Sheriff's Office for the violation of Penal Code Section 647B, prostitution, and the Kern County Public Health Services Department issued a notice of violation and revocation of the ability to operate Paradise Spa due to violations of Kern County Ordinance Code, including performing a service other than what is allowable in Kern County Ordinance Code, exposing the genital area of another person, intentionally touching the genital parts of another individual, and a violation of Penal Code Section 647B. The Kern County Sheriff's Office citation has been included in your board packet as Exhibit B, and our notice of violation has been included as Exhibit C. The notice of violation provided information giving Ms. New the right to appeal this decision within 15 days of the notice. On September 18th, 2019, Ms. New appealed the decision to revoke the massage establishment permit for Paradise Spa made by the department to the hearing officer, Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill issued a notice of decision to uphold the revocation of the massage establishment permit for Paradise Spa. His decision has been included in your board packet as Exhibit D. The notice provided information giving Ms. New the right to appeal Mr. Hill's decision to your board within 30 days. On September 27, 2019, the Kern County Clerk of the Board of Supervisors received a request to appeal the decision made by Mr. Hill from Ms. New, which has been included in your board packet as Exhibit E. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this concludes my comments regarding the background of the requested hearing today.
Thank you very much. Now we'll open it up to the public and ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak to this particular item. Yes, sir. Please proceed. Are you interpreting for her today?
Yes, and also I'm a church member, and also I know those matter procedure. So can I talk for her? And also we do have a paper.
Please, could we get your name?
Spencer Brown.
How do you spell the last name?
Brown, B-R-O-W-N.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Like Charlie. Okay, gotcha. And you are?
I'm the church member of the new. Yeah, we have been long time, so many years, and I'm the one took her to church.
And this is Miss New?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So basically, from the crime, the code, as we just sincerely, we both face to the pin, the one being prosecuted, but she already said she did not do that. But the day when we on the September 18 that time, they just what they say is the statement is that she do fail and to do the prosecution those certain job. But what we know is that I know the sister been long time she won't do that. So and also do the court process. So right now we don't know she do not or not, but we do personal. I do, and she know. She hire her is because we know she is the one she do righteous. Because we do this kind of massage service, what we doing is try to serve the people. We try to make a people release. So what we doing procedurally, we just try to do good. And also we don't have any illegal issue or any thinking, any thought. And as Miss New, she just try to do the best to glorify God's name. So we do not do those kind of things. So those part I just insist in front of you, all of you, and then she does not try to do those kind of business. We don't do that kind of business. That's the first I want to speak for her. And also, they mentioned the property over there. They do, people stay there, they insist. But we put in the paper for those rental, and the property there only do the massage job. Nobody stay there. Nobody just like what they say, not allowed supposed to stay there. But we do have all those leasing, all those paper. So we do not know people there. They only simply do the massage over there only. And also the pin, they hold in on October 15 to the court case. They actually, the sheriff, they didn't appear. They didn't do anything there. So in this case, we don't know, and to the law process, we don't know anything about that. And then she just closed all the store, and also we rely on those store, and then turn out just banner fee and all those part we just completely losing. So just as simple as they say, they just through their word. They say you do something wrong, but we don't see anything there. And then they just simply, from the September 10 till now, the store completely closed. We still pay rent, all those processes. So I just, your honor, and could be do the justice. So as we just try and we do our best to earn the business, to try to do the business. So, but those procedures let us know way to go. So that's why we try to appear to say something we supposed to say. So your honor, the supervisor can have a fair and looking on this point. I know what they try to do healthy and safety. That's very important for the country. We do know that. Everybody know that. But is anybody need a release, do something certain? Those are the job we have. But we do our best. But turn out they sounds like we are do some criminal, those procedure. We do not do that. That's why the new, they insist in front of everybody, we do not do that. But right now, just simple, they say you do that, then they close out. Right now, it's just business, everything all gone. So the hope, everything, just nothing. So that's why I'm just a brother, but I speak that out and hope the chairman and supervisor and can make a fair way to reopen or give us a reasonable, really acceptable, what's your right decision.
I think an important question for us to ask you on the record and an answer that for you to give is, do you have any new evidence that was not presented at the hearing?
Okay, yeah. We do have also rental paper.
What is that?
Yeah. And also the paper that time, they do put a step on the, into the shop. They do, and also their employees supposed to know. They this one not supposed to do all those. So those are the paper.
Could you supply that to our staff over here so they could review it, or
oh yes,
Ms. Kraus, either? Can you just, or does that conclude your statement?
No, statement is here. Sorry.
What I said, my question to you was, does that conclude your statement today? Is that all that you want to say and all the evidence that you want to provide?
他说我们现在的文件全部都是已经交出去了，对不对？
哦，对。
Yes.
It is. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to return it to the board. I guess I'll go to staff and say, we do not know what you're looking at or what they gave you. Would you like to take a moment to review that, or are you ready to comment on what it is? Tell us what it is and comment on it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it appears that they have provided us a rental agreement for a personal residence for the owner, Ms. New, along with other documents, a receipt for paying rent. It's difficult to tell what that receipt is for, if it's for this residence or not. A month-to-month rental agreement for another residence.
For the address in question today, or for a different address?
No, for a different residential residence.
Okay.
And a PG&E bill for that other residence. Then they provided what appears to be her rules for her massage technicians within Paradise Spa. And then a copy of the CAMTC certificate for Miss Tang, the individual that was cited on the night of the undercover decoy operation. And then it appears that it is a letter or a plea from Miss New that I can read aloud to your board if you so please.
Why don't you?
Okay. So it says, Supervisors, I am the owner of Paradise Spa located at 919 North Chester Avenue. On the date in question, I left my business partner, Andy, in charge of our business, who after this incident happened, has stepped away and washed his hands of this business. I was in Los Angeles on personal business when my employee, Xiaoping Tang, was cited for 647B prostitution. Xiaoping Tang had a court date of October 15th, 2019. During the discovery, the Sheriff's Department did not have the evidence ready to move forward with the case. At the time, the prosecution made a decision to have the case rescheduled. It is my opinion that it is unreasonable to shut down my store without any evidence and conviction and sacrifice the interests of our company, whether the executive team is too hasty in this regard. I appreciate your fair and unbiased outcome of this matter at hand.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other comments before I return it to the board?
Not this time, thank you.
I have Supervisor Maggard in first, but Supervisor Perez is also punched in. Do you have a preference? Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you for your report. This is in the 3rd District. It's on North Chester and Oildale. The Oildale community has been permeated by previously was permeated by massage establishments, and there has been a long-standing effort to verify the validity and the legitimacy of those establishments. Could you give us a bit of a report on, it doesn't pertain to this particular one, but how many other massage establishments have we visited and verified and have been shut down for similar behavior that is alleged here?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, we have permitted approximately 17 massage establishments within the unincorporated areas of Kern County. Of those 17, 15 of those we found all participating in acts of prostitution when we do our undercover decoy operation. 15 of those 17 have been permanently closed due to those actions, and we have 2 remaining within the unincorporated areas of Kern County.
So would this be one of those 15, this establishment?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, that is correct, yes.
Thank you. Has Ms. New and have Mr. Brown both been supplied a copy of the field case report that was given to us this morning by the deputy? Yes. Were they given it before this morning?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, no, they were not.
Okay. It is a document which I'm not going to read on public airways, but it very specifically describes the act of prostitution which occurred in the facility that evening. So this issue of there being a hearing for the employee who allegedly performed this act, can Ms. Rezon counsel us on what the consequences are if that hearing at the court for that employee has been delayed? Does that require us to delay our action? Give me some perspective on the consequence of this testimony from the deputy and the consequence of it not being prosecuted against the employee.
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, those are 2 very distinct issues. One is a potential criminal action brought against Ms. Tang that is proceeding through the criminal justice system. This is an appeal process that is allowed and directed by your ordinance code. So they're separate issues.
So is the burden of proof any different? Is there any reason that we cannot rely upon the report given to us by the deputy of what occurred that evening?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, no. There's no difference.
There was no reason not to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. It is unfortunate, Ms. New, that your business was operated in a fashion that you say you weren't aware of what was occurring, but nonetheless, it was occurring in the facility. And we have had a very serious problem with this kind of behavior in a number of establishments. And the way we've treated all the others is once we discovered that that was occurring, they were shut down. So I'm going to make a motion that we support staff's recommendation and we deny the appeal. But can we explain to Ms. New this morning, is there an opportunity for her to reapply for a license at some later date? What is the consequence of that?
Supervisor Maggard.
And let's give Mr. Brown an opportunity to explain to Ms. New what happened.
他说现在他还是把你关了，但是他说有机会，怎么样有机会让你能够再开这个店，所以他要他讲出来。
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, very good. Could you explain about what the process is for going forward?
Ms. New, Mr. Brown, the ordinance states that if you are found guilty and there is a violation in regards to California Penal Code 647B, prostitution, the penalty for that is a permanent revocation of the massage establishment permit at that site at 919 North Chester. Unfortunately, due to this violation, that building itself can never reopen as a massage establishment building. We will not issue a health permit for that building, and Ms. New cannot be an owner of a massage establishment within the county of Kern due to this violation. There's also a $1,500 monetary penalty that goes along with that violation.
他说现在这个犯了这个法之后，你这个店是不能够打开的，而且你要花了1500块。
多少法？
就是 现在那罚你1500块，而且你现在在科隆康体是不准开任何的店。这3条，第1条，第1条就是关，绝对不这个地方不准再开。第2点就是在科隆康体里面任何的地方你都不准再开店。再来第3点就是要罚金1500块。那你有什么话要讲？我要翻译。
如果说康体不允许开店的话，为什么他们在收我们的卫生费？我们什么费用都交了。
Yeah, if county not allow.
Can you please step closer to the microphone, sir?
I'm sorry.
Chinese.
Closer to the microphone.
Microphone, just so I can hear your voice. No, sir, Mr. Brown, you're going to interpret for her.
You're interpreting for us.
Yeah. She say if the county not allow us to open the shop, why you collecting all those money? 再来呢？
我是去年6月份开始的。
She was open the store last year's June.
如果说康体不允许开店，
If
为
county
什
not
么
allow
允
us
许
to
我再
open the
开
shop?
开？
Not allowed, but why 不是，他现在是说不是，是因为你犯了这个地点，犯了这个店，所以他不准你在这个地方，也不准以后在这个康体开店。那跟你现在去年6月开店有什么关系？
那因为我私下和我的工人郑重地谈过，他说他没有，他是清白的，没有犯这个，没有做违法的事。
She personally talked to the PIN and she do insist and WeChat and also in front of the church. She say she do not do anything illegal, and so we have a comment on those part. But those are the paper we just received at this moment. So and then she even till yesterday morning we still concerned and talk to her straightly. She say I do not do that. So but this paper is and also we do not need to go through the court case. So this case is supposed to be October 15, but they don't receive any document paper. So she hired a lawyer to try to the court, but right now just stand by, nothing in processing. So that's what we know, and as she know, and she till now she say she's not guilty. She didn't do anything. So for that part, but right now, the county already just sacrifice her, just close the shop and no way to open. And she just got shocked. She saw what's going on, and I tried to do my best. But right now the store seems something uncertain. We still don't know. Those prosecution is we still can to appeal, to be win. And then, but when it sounds like you say you are fail, so you just give us just a judgment. No way. So that's why she kind of upset about that.
Thank you. Mr. Constantine, is there any other corroboration besides the deputy's field report? For example, was the, I'm sorry, Ms. Kerrigan, I didn't mean to step by you and talk to Matt. Brent, is there any other corroboration? Wasn't this a recorded transaction, the offer of the service? Is that not something that was recorded as well?
Yeah, please, we need to clear that. And right now, we don't see anything, just through the paper, and then we are all gone, fail.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry.
I have to ask that we not interrupt each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, there are multiple different vehicles there. The undercover decoy does have a bug or a recording device on him that is heard live by multiple other vehicles that are staged outside of the massage establishment while this act is taking place. Those vehicles do hear what is going on within the room. There is a code word that is said by the undercover decoy when something inappropriate does happen. All of those vehicles that are listening do hear that, and that is our cue to enter into the facility and begin our investigation. Then we have One of the deputies that does cite the individual for their acts, he creates a report that is separate from the report that you guys received this morning. The report that you received this morning is the report from the decoy, and those reports both jive with each other. They both indicate that these acts took place.
Was the other report entered into the discussion when the appeal took place before Mr. Hill?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, no, it was not. We did not receive that report until this morning as well.
Okay. So Ms. Raison, I want to make sure that, I know that if this is, if we have the factual basis to draw a conclusion, I'm ready to make a conclusion, but I need your opinion as to whether or not, is there anything about due process or any, I don't even know if that's the right word, is there anything about this process as it's occurred that would cause me not to be able to move forward this morning based upon the concerns expressed by Ms. New and Mr. Brown?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, your proceedings this morning are considered de novo, so it's like starting from scratch. You're free to consider the evidence and the information that has been provided to you and proceed as you see fit.
And is there any issue as to Ms. New's ability to understand our discussion and the adequacy of Mr. Brown serving as an interpreter for her?
I don't believe so. It might, it wouldn't hurt to maybe inquire into Mr. Brown as he is
Could you do
translating.
That for us?
Certainly. Mr. Brown, have you been telling Ms. New what has been said this morning during the board proceedings?
No, right now, even me, yeah, right now it's just this morning, yeah, but I mentioned that two here is we just violation code. We do know that the PIN and also they insist that the people stay living there. So that's what we know because they've been closed. The reason is she totally understand. So we just try to explain that those part we didn't do it. So we try to appear in front of the supervisor or chairman. Then we try to have you open the opportunity for us because in our heart we never thinking do those kind of things, and she just thinking, yeah, we just humbly here, and we supposed to receive something fair way.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, let me just ask you just a couple of questions.
Yes, please.
You understand English? You're speaking today?
Today, yes.
Okay. And you are here either on behalf of or at the request of Ms. New to help her this morning?
La Paz, you mean I talked to her?
Yes.
That time, at the moment, she kind of misunderstanding, so I traced back to let her know.
So you're translating for her this morning?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I believe that he is here on her behalf to translate for her.
Can you just confirm with him that he has adequately understood and explained our rationale to her?
Have you explained to Ms. New what this morning, what the board has said?
Also, the procedure, I didn't explain to her. I just, the important certain part, be closed, and also the lady just those 3 points, and close, complete close, and also the Kern County complete close, and also fine, $1,500. So that part I do mention to her.
You did or did not?
I do.
You did explain that to her?
Yes. So that's why she got shocked. She said, what happened? So that means she got no opportunity. That's why she want to say something.
Okay. And is there something else that she wants to have you say to the board this morning?
你有没有任何事情要我跟他们谈？
我想
She's think
恳求这些
不要再求了，
陪审员，因为我们是冤枉的。
What she says, she's innocent. She's innocent.
And that's what she has just said to you, that you're now speaking on her behalf?
Yeah, she's innocent, yes.
Thank you. I have one more question for you, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Rizan, for verifying that for me. I believe the background information that we received indicated that Ms. Tang the employee is a former employee and that she no longer works for the company. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are so many friends, but for this kind of business, they just certain that she hire her and have to come. So but for sure she asking a license, for sure have a license, so that she can hire them to work for her. So
But does Ms. Tang work for her, Ms. New any longer?
Actually, they not really. That time is about 10 days. She just hired and about 10 days, but they know each other more than, as I know, they more than 6 or 7 years. Yes.
Why does she not work for Ms. New any longer?
That moment she working in Los Angeles County in San Gabriel.
For Ms. New?
No, that time is different. Actually, they have
For
a
a different
license.
company?
They can work in different place. But sometimes she need help, need people help, and then she just call them and have them to come over to help.
Well, unfortunately, the consequence of having this activity occur in her establishment has consequences, and those consequences have been explained. So it is my motion that we, the hearing has already been closed, it's my motion that we deny the appeal. And thank you for coming forward to give your testimony this morning.
I appreciate that. God bless you.
Supervisor Gleason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no reason to doubt Ms. New's integrity, nor her willingness or want to have a legitimate business. However, I do have doubts and reason to doubt Chow Ping Tang's integrity, and I'm going to second the motion.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the morning agenda. I just need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved.
Without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you.